Blessed are the poor in spirit, theirs is the kingdom of heaven. There is a fundamental difference in attitude between the person who thinks he has rights and the person who understands his nature as a creature. The creature has received. He was not, and he has no right to be. And the illusion of possessing things and owning bits of other creatures is a complete misunderstanding of his own nature, and it has consequences. When the apparent rights that he has are taken away from him, injustice is done towards him, and he then loses peace. It should not be so. Likewise, the person who, forgetting his own nature, goes through life insisting that such and such happen, and if not, I will not be happy, is also in complete illusion about his own nature, and, alas, is his own worst enemy, because he will go through life in pain. The person, on the other hand, who is poor in spirit and knows full well that every breath, everything is just a bonus, is free. He does not command, he receives with gratitude what comes freely from the giver. Likewise, he will not insist that this or that happen. He has no right to be happy, but he's grateful if he is. And he does not know what is good for his happiness. Neither will he spend his time making sure that happiness comes, e.g., through careful programming of every event in the future, missing the moment that's there, calculating the moment to be, never living where he is, never experiencing the joy that might be therein, here and now. The saints were living in their truth. Our own local saint in Siena, Catherine, was told this by the Father himself. No, daughter, you are she who is not, and I am he who is. Then we can actually go through life also avoiding one great enemy of beatitude: worry. It's the spiritual illness that takes away the joy that might be there. The saints were not opaque to grace. They lived in their truth and they handed over the reins. Indeed, they handed over everything, time included, and they were free for whatever command might then come from their owner and maker. Some saints were surprises in their humanity, as well as being heroes of grace. Some were very interesting in their very humanity. One has but to think of St. Philip Neri, the Cardinal Archbishop of Milan, Charles Borromeo, himself a saint, would look him out when he'd come to Rome. Why? He wanted to hear the latest joke. It gave him buzz. St. Philip Neri was known at one point to scandalize the Greek big powers in Rome by shaving only one half of his beard. And sometimes the people in the Vatican would ask when they got a strange message, has Philip Neri got anything to do with this? And yet he whizzed to the altar Indeed, when he was on earth, he would whiz off the altar because he'd go into ecstasy and levitation. But the sense of humour would rock Rome and all its youth. Humanity sanctified. One then can go a little later to the likes of St. John Bosco, who managed to get on side all the rabble of Turin, inmates and all, and managed to do something that never happened before, got them all out of their prison or whatever it was for a day to have a good time, and got through to prison authorities to let it happen. I guarantee you they're all in a state of grace. I've heard their confessions and not one will misbehave. Okay, it's a deal, and a good time was had by all. He also knew how to get their attention, first of all in their humanity. He was a very good conjurer. He learned all the tricks. Literally, he could conjure very well. Then we have the likes of the Curé Vase. Very interesting phenomenon. One would say that actually he wasn't all that clever. The truth is that it wasn't so much that, but he had to learn to work manually very early on in life, and his brain wasn't exercised. He wasn't at all a dunce. But he did have a job to get ordained. And then he was put in the most backward parish of all, Ars, of whom no one had ever heard. And eventually, the railway line was deflected to go close to Ars, so as pilgrims going there could find a way of getting there easily. And he would be preaching before not just ordinary people, but bishops. And he would leave his notes and go into spontaneous pleadings of the heart. And he would actually go into tears. And he couldn't stop when talking of certain things. He was known to have exclaimed, "Un jour on le verra." One day one will see him. "On le verra, on le verra, on le verra!" And he'd start to cry. And bishops and cardinals before him would also sob. This was humanity sanctified and used to the full. We have close to us in time Padre Pio, who had similar gifts and was able to say things as they were and see things as they were and warn us about what was coming. We also have hidden ones which have gone normally into the beyond, never being seen. The recently canonized Jacinta and Francisco of Fatima. And we know that these were used powerfully to communicate extremely important messages to mankind. What is less known is that before she died, when she was in exile in hospital in Lisbon, she was actually given another message by Our Blessed Lady. And because it wasn't listened to the first time, she got it known to the Cardinal himself. It was this, that Our Lady did not want people talking in church. It was displeasing. No one would listen to her. And yet these words should be listened to. For the Lord in that place has his rights over humanity. And that he should use this little fragile 9-year-old to tell us so is interesting. He also used her and her brother and cousin to warn us that hell is a reality. Children were seen to be freaking out, as we would say, before the fires of hell, frightened to death. Interesting that heaven wasn't at all afraid to shock them, so that we too should be shocked and rocked. So, all this is what heaven does, the surprises of our God, taking those who are poor in spirit, who are not obstacles or opaque. He can make less use of those who have it all, know it all, and are so full of the right answer that they are in the way. The word that has power is the word that is received, first of all, in humility. Theology is best done on one's knees.